Locho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe tinle yarngo da pelge drolor zampe ze parache palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara suma timo nisha sane kar Uta vardanya shri bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om guru vajra dar suma timo nisha sane kar Uta vardanya shri bara varsa manya sarva siddhi Om guru vajra dar suma timo nisha sane karm Uta vardanya shri bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Je Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseje Ningne Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Viso Lekshun Ila Sambe Dede Malyo Pa Geme Lunge Drupra Jingel Soni Sodan Dikdun Shakpe Tse Dunge Namge Yinsu Lekshun Labchen tsoni yonsu tsopa dan chera nye tun chamra jingelo chancho parge nyinsen tukun tu nyu peme siudro lekshu gegen kunshi shi tungen de la drubra jingelo dagi lona chola chopa dan chemi samchur ngenba shiwat chedan tumbe dede malyopa beme lungi drubra jingel Dorna tingne tserab tamche dan teche pardu negav tamche tu rese kyamne lama kele me tukche chingi dala siksu sol gongyab drewe nyamda dacha la chetson la me tuche rab gongne kudan sungi nawa dral me tu nyam sunyongwe kesan topra shu kewa kundu yanda lama dan drame cheki pela longcho chin sadan lamge yende rab zone Dorje change koba nyur tobe shon. Pakyuke kudan dagi lo, pakyuke sundan dagi nga, pakyuke tukdan dagi yi, ten yerme chikdu jingi lo. Makyuke kudan dagi lo, makyuke sundan dagi nga, makyuke tukdan dagi ten yerme chiktu jingi lo. Om Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Om Muni Soham Om Muni Mahamuni Kyamunye Swaha Sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso che dāgī jīnsō gībē sōnāṃ drola pinchira sangye druparashu sangye chodan tsoge chonamla chancho bardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparashu sangye chodan sogi chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, yesterday we have concluded the explanation on the second point, which is how to train the mind in bodhicitta, relative and absolute. And so, today we will start the next 5 points, which are actually in support to the development of bodhicitta. Okay? So, I think we go directly to the point. Don't need much explanation before, no need much introduction. Otherwise, we'll take longer and longer, and we still have a lot to look at. Okay? So, the next point, it says, transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. This is a very important part. I will just read the text first. It says, Sumba kinge chanchu lamtu gyurwani, nöchu dikpa kangwe tse kinge chanchu lamtu gyur tela kantu gomla jar jorwa shiden tapki chok. When the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. The supreme method is accompanied by the 4 practices. First of all, is there any possibility in our life not to experience adverse circumstances? No. Independently of how we do, independently of how rich we get, independently of how powerful we are, independently of the nice people that we have with us, adverse circumstances come. We get sick, there are problems, one person is doing this, it's always there. There's always something happening in a way or another differently of what we expect. Basically, we try during our life, as we were saying in the beginning of these teachings a few days ago, we try to keep the object of attachment, we try to gain the object of desire, and we try to avoid the objects of aversion. Is it possible to do that? Truly not. So, what happened? This becomes adverse circumstances. When we need to separate from the object of attachment, that's an adverse circumstances. When we cannot gain the object of desire, that's also an adverse circumstances. And when we need to enter in contact with an object of aversion. That's the main form of adverse circumstances. So, first of all, is understanding. In order to transform that, first of all, we need to understand that there is nothing wrong with difficulties, with problems, with conflicts. They are part of life. They are natural. So, it's not something that went really bad or something that is going wrong. It would be really strange if we had no problems at all. So, it's normal in life to have conflicts, to have problems. It's all of that. This doesn't mean that we need to live it with conflicts and so on. There are ways to overcome it. But first of all, whenever there are adverse circumstances that appear, we need to remember this is part of reality. This is part of life. So we start from the beginning already somehow with some acceptance in relation to it. Okay? Together with that comes another point, which is actually the most important part for me. I talk for myself and I think for most of us. Myself, sure. We are by nature lazy. And we don't want to make real changes in ourselves unless we are put outside of our comfort zone. It's like when there is something or someone, whatever circumstances, that force us outside of our comfort zone, then we do something to change. Otherwise, we are very attached to the way how we are and we don't want to change, Even we don't know it's not the best one, we remain there, stuck where we are. Then suddenly, because of the circumstances, it's not worth anymore to be where we are, then we make an effort to change. It's like, would we ever treat a sickness if it had no symptom? Very difficultly. Maybe we're not feeling the symptom, but we are afraid of the symptom. And then we treat. But imagine a sickness that would never ever manifest any symptom. Would we treat it? No. Why? Because the treatment is expensive, the medicine has a bad taste. Why should I treat that? So similar to that, until we are not forced outside of our own comfort zone, we don't make any effort to change. So, from that perspective, conflicts, problems, adverse circumstances are precious, are important. Why? Because they force us to make changes, which are necessary on us. It's like, if I look to myself, I have learned much more with the difficult situations than with the pleasurable ones. If I look in my own life, many of the qualities that I recognize to have nowadays, it's thanks to the way of how I dealt with the difficult situations which I got before. When I look, for example, to my grandfather is an example for me. My grandfather now it's 93 almost. And he went through the Second World War. He's Jewish, from Germany, born in Germany, and went through a lot of difficulties, okay? Great big part of his family died in the war, and they were from a quite wealthy family. Then they left with nothing, and then they arrived in Brazil as refugees, completely with nothing. Then he needed to start from zero, learning a new language in a new culture, in the middle of poverty. Then slowly they worked hard, and then he made money, and then he lost everything again, and then he made up everything again and again. And if you look to him nowadays, he's stable as a rock, as a mountain. It doesn't matter what happens. There he is. I said, and so what, After so much that he have passed, and so much he went through, and so much through which he was able to overcome, what is this little problem? Nothing. So, imagine what would be of us if we never had any problem. I think we would be terrible. It's like not even possible to touch, we already start shouting. So, when I look to myself, I truly recognize that great part of the qualities that I have now are a result of the things that I learned by going through difficult situations. I even remember one time I was living in India many years ago. Maybe how many years ago? More than 20 actually. And then one time I looked and I said, my life is so good. I have no problems. Everything is so wonderful. But how can I learn how to deal with situations if everything is always good? I think I would need some problems. I would need something, also to make a little bit more taste. It was just to ask, and there it came, Many problems and difficulties came just after. And I learned a lot with them. Sincerely. We don't need to go now in detail. So for me personally, problems are sacred. Because the adverse circumstances are the ones that allow us to look at ourselves. It's there where we need to truly put in practice what we learn. It's when we are in a difficult situation that we need to see truly how much love I have, how much patience I have, how much kind I am. How much do I truly believe in the law of karma? It's in that moment that we need to check, our reality check, when we need to do our own reality check, when we're in a difficult situations. And there are 3 ways of dealing with a difficult situation, 3 ways of dealing with an adverse circumstance. One way is we act just as if it didn't exist. The difficulty is there, I don't see it, so it doesn't exist for me. Normally what happens with this, the longer it passes, the stronger it becomes, and sooner or later it manifests somewhere else. Okay? The second way of dealing with a difficult situation is we try to eliminate the symptom but not the cause. So we try just to do something to forget about the problem that is there and to go somewhere else. So that I'm having difficulty with a person, what I do, I don't talk anymore to that person. Finish. I have problem in a conflict in a certain place, I don't go anymore to that place. Or whatever else, we try to eliminate the symptom, but we do not go truly to understand what is creating that. And normally when we do this, momentarily it works, but very much sooner than later we get back again into the same problem. And the third way of dealing, which is the real one, is that, okay, we can try to make the symptom less, but at the same time we must go out to understand which is the cause. We must be able to overcome the situation. When do we really overcome something? When we are able to be in front of the same situation without the same reaction of suffering. That's when we have truly overcome it. Otherwise we have just made distance out of it. Okay. Sure, when we are there are situations in life which are extreme. There are situations that are so difficult that we have no strength to deal with it. In these cases, it's better to create distance out of it in order for us to get our strength, and then we can deal with it. Okay? But the other aspect also is that, if we look around, and this is something that I have come up with my own theory, which it may be wrong, but the more I think about it, the more it looks right. I say it's my own theory, so there is a big probability of being wrong. Anyhow, is the following. First of all, we are all very boring. We always complain about the same things almost the whole life. It's very interesting also when you listen to someone that you know very well, like a friend and like an old-time friend, and then the friend comes to you to complain about something, more or less we already know what's the subject, More or less we already know what the person is going to complain about. Or is the material part, or is the relationship, or is the family, or is the health, or is this, or is that. It's always more or less the same subject that goes around and around and around and around, okay? So we are really boring in this way. We have like 1, 2, maybe 3 issues in our life mainly, And then we just go around that same issues again and again and again and again and again. Change name, change place, change color, change shape. But finally, there we are. Okay? We're always going around the same little things. Okay? The theory is that independently of where we are, with whom we are, it's like if each one of us, we have a certain amount of suffering that we need to live, to experience. And then it doesn't matter what is the condition that we make, we will be experiencing that suffering, Like I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and the friend told, it's true, because when I have the problem, that suffering is there. And when I suddenly don't have and everything is fine, suddenly I start feeling that same suffering coming again, and I don't have a reason for it. So, if we look truly through the philosophy, what says is that the suffering that we experience is the result of the actions of the past. And what is happening in the present is just the condition through which it manifests. So once the causes are there, we will experience the result in the present. We take out from one place, it will manifest in another. So, even it's like when I look at my own life, I see that in my life I have like
two main issues. Luckily, I don't have many issues. But there's like two main issues of somehow more difficulty. And one of them is extremely clear. There is one specific point through which conflict and difficulties manifest in my life. And it's very interesting because when it's being manifested through one condition, all the rest is specified. When that condition through which that conflict, that difficulty is manifesting, it gets solved, it gets pacified, automatically somewhere else it manifests. Looks like they talk to each other, They make turns. And then when there is nowhere, okay, everything that I know is passive, then from somewhere else it will come, like they pop out. It's like if wanting or not, I have to deal with that. And if it's not here, it's going to be there. And if it's not there, it's going to be somewhere else. So I was even talking to Rinpoche some days ago, and I said, Rinpoche, for me it's so clear that there is this difficulty, and it's just popping out. If it doesn't matter, if it's because of this or that. So please give me advices of what I need to do internally to purify this because I understand that the real solution is not changing the conditions, it's changing something inside of me to make a change. Otherwise, it's just coming up again and again and again. But the main point here is that once we understand this, the first thing that we can do in order to transform the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment, into a spiritual path, is to stop being a victim. To victimize ourselves. How do we victimize ourselves? Oh, this person did this, that person did that person behaves in this way, that other person behaves in that way, this is not supposed to be in this way, that is not supposed to be that way, this was supposed to be different, and here and there, this person cannot be like this, and then we enter and why am I suffering? Because of all of that. If it was not for the world around me that everything is wrong, I would be perfectly fine. If it was not for the world, if it was not for the people, if it was not for all of that, I would be perfectly fine. So in the moment that we point our finger to the world around us and we start blaming the world, I mean the people, the situation and so on, for our own conflict and suffering and so on, we are victimizing ourselves in that moment. It's just a stronger way to say. Instead of blaming the others, we victimize ourselves somehow. Because in the moment I blame others, automatically I'm victimizing myself. When, as Shantideva says in the Bodhisattva Charavatara, if someone comes and hits us with a stick in our arm, there is pain. Which is what is creating the pain? The stick hitting and the arm being there. If you take out the arm, there is no more pain. Similar to that, everything that we experience it through ourselves. So, inevitably, the way how we relate to situations depend on the way how we are, And it's like that every situation that we live, there is always something for us to learn in it, something for us to grow, something for us to develop with that. And sometimes it looks like that until we don't learn a lesson, that problem will come back again and again and again and again. It's like a friend talking to a friend many years ago, and she was complaining to me about the relationship with her partners of job, working partners. Saying, oh, they do not recognize my job and my qualities and whatever I do, it's that no one is bringing value to what I do and so on. Then I knew quite well the situation, so I asked her, have you ever felt like this in another situation in the past? And she answered me. She thought for some time and she was very sincere and she told me, actually, since I have memories of myself, when I was a kid, a child, my parents never recognized my qualities and what I did. When I got married, I got married quite early and my husband never recognized my qualities and what I did. And my friends never recognized my qualities and what I do. And my children never recognize my qualities and what I do. And my partner does not recognize my qualities and what I do. And then I was asking, what do you see in common from all of this, And the person was saying, that no one recognized my qualities and what I do. Is there anything else in common, Maybe you? So what happens is, in life very often is like, until we are not able to overcome something, it's like the same sickness that remained there, and it's just the new symptoms coming out again and again. Until we don't cure the sickness, the symptoms are just going to come out again and again in different ways. So actually, from this perspective, every time that we have a difficulty, actually it's an opportunity to learn something. It's an opportunity to overcome our own limits. It's an opportunity to change ourselves. That's the best place where we need to practice. Sure, I repeat again, when we are in situations that are extreme, if we are in a situation that is so difficult, we get completely overwhelmed by suffering and our defilements, then we need to create space. We need to get rid. It's like if there is a sickness, if the symptom is too strong, first we need to pacify the symptoms, then we can cure the root of the disease. Okay? But we should never forget that we need to go to cure the disease. Because thanks to the symptom, we can recognize there is a disease. Wherever there is a symptom, there is a disease. We're not saying we should not take care of the symptom, but only taking care of the symptom is not enough. So whenever a symptom manifests, we say, oh, how wonderful. Now I know that there is a disease there, so I can take care of it. Okay? And one thing that also, which is, whenever there is a problem, must be a solution, and we must do something about it, okay? Problems are there to be solved. But there is a lot to learn with the difficulties. And as Shantideva said in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, if I remember well, the verse was saying, Kalte chosu yönani telamiga chishicha, kalte chosu menani telamiga chishicha. Which means, if you have a problem and there is a solution, why to suffer, why to be upset, why to get angry? There is a solution. If you have a problem and there is no solution, why to get angry, why to suffer, why to be upset? There is no solution. Which means, what's the point of getting angry and upset if anyhow things are just like this, What doesn't have solution is not a problem, it's a fact. Okay? It's very important to make the distinction between problems and facts. A problem with no solution is a fact that we don't accept. Something that we don't like and that have a solution is an actual problem. Okay? It's clear, this distinction, no? But the first step really is, again, we need to stop victimizing ourselves and think that the problems are there to be solved, but we have a lot to learn from them. And as the Tibetan saying says, Yalana godap madena kuptap, if you stand up, you hit your head. If you sit down, you hit your bump. So there is no way out. Inevitably, we are going to have problems and difficulties and conflicts. It's part of life. Right? So the important thing is, how do I deal with these difficulties? How do I deal with these problems? This is what we truly need to put our effort and energy into. And not trying to create a perfect life with no problems at all, because that's never going to happen. Okay? And remember, we have few subjects that we repeat again and again in our lives. Okay? And there is even this very simple rule. When one problem ends, another one starts. And when one problem ends and no new problem starts, what happens? We create one. Okay? So the important thing is not to eliminate all the difficulties. That's not the path to happiness. It's to learn how to deal with the difficulties so they do not harm us anymore. Need to remember that the adverse circumstances and the suffering that comes through it is the symptom. We need to go to the cause. And as Panchen Rinpoche said in one of his teachings, he was saying that defilements can be easily eliminated when manifested. Similar to the fact that if there is poison in the blood, it can be easily eliminated when manifested as an infection in the skin. Otherwise, we don't know how to take away the poison. So when our suffering manifests because of this or that or whatever, this is showing something inside of us that is not okay. Then it's like it's a symptom showing that there is something that is not going well. And from the symptom, we can understand what is the sickness. And that's where we need to work by applying the antidote. Okay? So problems, adverse circumstances in this way are sacred. Okay? Bene. Por favor. Okay. Yeah. There is even one more point. It's not that simple. Okay. The question was, in the example of this friend of mine, was it because she could not, the way she was relating to reality, that she felt no one recognized her? Or was that people were actually not recognizing her, or was both together? Okay. Something more still there. Okay. What happens is the following. There are no results without causes. Okay. So actually everything that we experience is the result of something that we did in the past. Okay? This we can see in many levels. Most of the times, the difficulty that we have to deal with a situation in the present is because we have some trauma from the past. Something happened in the past that we did not deal correctly, or something we did that something happened there, and we make some blockage in the past and it manifests in the present. Okay? This is one way. So this is like what we call the karma. Karma means action. I created something in the past, it manifests in the present. Together with that, it's not just a conceptual way of how seeing reality. It's because of this case, one's own identity. I am a person that I am not recognized by others. I am not loved. I am not respected. I am not recognized. And what happened with this? One, I see situations in this way. Two, with this attitude, it's like if I am a sort of a magnet and I attract this type of situations to myself. So the difficulty is that even when I try to see, which is my behavior, but I look around and I say, but look what people are doing, look what people are saying. But when I change truly my inner way, now automatically the conditions around will change also. Okay? So it's not so much black and white. It's like when, for example, there is a situation between two people that one is treating the other with violence. You know? Sure, there is the one that is treating me with violence, but also there is me that I am allowing this to happen. And there is something on me through which I create this codependence. And there is something there together which I make, and I call to myself and I go into situations that create this type of thing. Which doesn't take away the responsibility of the action of the other person. Huh? Clear? Okay. So, the next part, it is that in order for us to practice our qualities and the antidotes and so on, the difficult circumstances, the adverse circumstances are actually important. Okay. It is like the example, no? If we take one example of anger, which is a very clear example. What's the antidote for anger? It's patience. But if we try to practice patience, just like creating an idealized image, when everything is fine and we are happy, no problems around and so on, and we say, I am a very patient person, I need to practice patience. So we create a sort of an idealized image of ourselves, being patient, and we connect ourselves with this idealized image of patience, and we remain somehow connected to that. Beautiful, nice, but not enough. When do we really need to practice patience? When we are in front of the object of anger. It's the example that there was this monk, he was making a retreat. And when master came and asked him, "Oh, what are you making retreat about?" And he answered, "Oh, I am making retreat on patience. I am meditating on patience." He said, "Oh, very good." But then he spit on his face and slapped him. And then this monk already started to react bad on him, He wanted to hit him back. Then the master made a step backwards and he said, "Remember, without an object of anger, you can never practice patience." So, what is patience? It's to react with no aggression in front of the object of anger. So when do I really practice patience? When I have an object of anger. At the same time also what happens is that the adverse circumstances, they become a sort of a mirror for us, through which they show us where are our limits, how much anger we have, or jealousy, or envy, or fear, or miserliness, or arrogance. They show us that. So, it's in front of the difficult moments where we truly need to put into practice. Otherwise, we remain in this idealized image. I need to have satisfaction, and we put there. When do we need to practice satisfaction? When we start suffering because we don't have what we want. That's when we need to apply the antidote. And we need to remember, be grateful for what we have. Remember that it's not possible to have everything we have. Remember that we suffer not because we don't have what we want, but we suffer because we want what we don't have. It's clear the difference between the two, no? Because when we say, I suffer because I don't have what I want, the one to blame is the things that I don't have. It's because I don't have what I want. Actually, we suffer because we want what we don't have or what we cannot have. And this makes a big difference. So, that's when we need to apply the antidote. So actually, the difficult moments, the difficult circumstances, they are showing to us truly where we need to work, where it's got the blockage. And it's something that is not so conceptual because it touches directly. And we need to, I need to do something here because it's coming strongly to us. But that's the real moment where we really need to put in practice the teachings. Sure, all the meditation helps us a lot. All the understanding of the teachings helps us a lot. All the prayers that we do helps us a lot. But when is the real moment that we need to put it into practice? When we are in front of the difficult situations. That's when we really have to say, that's the moment to do it. The great practitioners of the past, and I believe also of the present, like more highly realized practitioners, for instance, when they saw that there is no circumstances around that is making the practitioner angry anymore. So he's not getting angry with anything that is happening around anymore. So what would the practitioner do at that point? He will go to create more extreme situations to check if there is any anger left anywhere on him. Because if there is any anger left, it will manifest as I create more and more extreme situations. And until that anger does not manifest, I have no way how to look at it and to deal with it and to apply the antidote in it. So, we don't need to go to look for more extreme situations. I think we all have situations in our life that makes us angry and unsatisfied or this or that. But we need to recognize that the situations when they come, first of all, we cannot avoid them. So, being very objective, when we have a difficult situation, we have three choices. Or we make like as if it didn't exist. We fake like if it doesn't exist. Or we react with anger, jealousy, envy, pride, miserliness, and so on. Or we try to apply an antidote and overcome it. There is a situation I don't like. Or I accept it and I learn how to practice patience within it. And I try to deal positively with it. Or I react badly with it. These are the two possibilities, Both of them are difficult. Yes. But life is difficult. It's very beautiful life, but it's difficult. So, There we are. And so we need somehow to just simply say, okay, there it is, the situation, and I want just to react badly and put myself as the victim, or I want to see what symptom this is showing me, what's the sickness that is manifesting, and I want to try to apply the antidote to it. If we truly start using every negative situation, every adverse circumstance, as a way to see ourselves in the mirror and to apply the antidote that we have on that, then we are transforming the adverse circumstances on the path. If we just create an idealized image of what we should be as a pure, perfect being, but then when it comes to the difficult moments, we just point the finger to the world. Remember, one friend once told me, remember, when we point the finger to one person to the other, 3 fingers are pointing to ourselves, no? So if we learn how to do that, how to see, okay, what I need to change on that, then that makes us to transform their circumstances, because anyhow they're going to come. Anyhow difficult moments will come. Anyhow difficult things will manifest. So what do we want? We want just to continue to react negatively, or we want to try to transform them and learn how to react positively within them. It is said in the teachings of Lojong, in this part, before that, Atisha, following his teachings, he used to say, following the teachings of mind training, he used to say, our enemies are actually our best friends. Why? Because the enemies are the ones that put us in difficult situations and that show us clearly as a mirror which are our defilements that we need to work on. Someone that is always kind, always nice, always gentle, that is never pushing us outside of our comfort zone, it's a nice person, but it's not helping us to see us where are our defilements, where are our conflicts, and so on. The one that pushes us outside of the boundaries of our comfort zone, but then this is really showing us what we need to develop and which are our limits and where are our defilements and so on and so on. Okay? So if we have this intention to practice in this way, then truly the enemies are actually our best friends. Okay? And it is said that in this third point, which is transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment, when a practitioner really knows how to transform the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment, he doesn't make any more differences between positive and negative circumstances. Which means he remains with the same inner attitude, relation. If the positive is pleasure, if the situation is pleasurable, wonderful. If the situation is negative, adverse, wonderful. And by that, he reaches what is called a pure land within this body. It's like living this life like if you are constantly in a pure land. You are constantly in joy, constantly in bliss, because you know how to deal with each and every situation. A good situation is wonderful, a bad situation is wonderful. Then there is no more difference between one and the other. Okay, but we will go through this a little bit more as we follow the text. Okay? So, the next way how to transform the adverse circumstances into the path, it's directly related to the law of karma. It's basically connected to the fact that we cannot, by any means, experience something for which we have not created the causes. Okay? So every time that we experience anything is because at some point, somewhere, we have created causes for it. Okay? It's like if there is a road and I go too fast with the car and I get a fine for that. If I knew that there was a fine there, or if I didn't know that I went going too fast, finally I get the fine. Why I get the fine? Because I went too fast. Who I need to blame for that? Myself, no one else. Okay? Similar to that, whenever we experience anything in our life, is because at some point we have created the causes for that. And the conditions around us, the situation around us, is just a way, a condition through which the causes of the past manifest. So when we have this strong attitude of self-responsibility, where we know that what we experience, our joy and our suffering, are actually results of our own actions of the past. In other words, we need to understand that what we live in the present is the result of the past. Our actions, our choices, our traumas, everything that we have created in the past, it manifests in the present. So the present is a result of the past. So once I have this clear awareness that I am the result of the past, that whatever I experience is the result of what I have done in the past, I stop by that pointing my fingers towards others and saying they are the ones to blame. And I stop trying to change the world in order to make me happy, because I recognize that it's coming from my own actions of the past. So if I don't want to suffer like this in the future, I need to change my actions in the present. And I stop pointing my fingers. So to transform in this way, to have this level of acceptance, it's also one of the antidotes to eliminate anger. Because if I stop pointing my finger towards others and saying they are the ones to blame for my suffering, naturally I will not have anger towards them for that also. So if I recognize that actually I am the one to blame, not as a person, but actions that I did out of my own ignorance in the past. So somehow it's good that now I can pay for them. It's better that I can pay for these bills now that I have the possibility than to take these debts with me. It's like we cannot get angry with the person that is bringing us the bill of the fine that we made, Someone is bringing us the fine, we cannot get angry with the one that is bringing us the fine. It's like we did a mistake and we need to pay the price for it. The one is just bringing us the new, or the judge is just saying, oh, now your fine is this. It's just doing his job. It was our mistake through which we are experiencing that. So, whenever we experience the result of a negative action, whenever we experience suffering, insatisfaction, whatever type of conflict inside and so on, this is the result of a negative action we have done in the past. And when we experience the result, it's like a seed that is ripening. And when the seed ripens, the seed is gone. That's why we say that we are somehow consuming that karma. We are extinguishing the causes that we have created. What we need to be careful is not to create new causes while we are extinguishing the old. This is very important. But whenever we have a difficulty, we just remember this is the way how to extinguish the causes that I have created myself in the past. Like Lama Michel Rinpoche was saying here, Guru Savanadipa, the guru of Atisha, there is a verse from him in which it says, Pain, sickness, is like the broom sweeping away our negative karma. Which means there is a big difference between purification and extinction of negative karma. To purify means to eliminate the negative karma without needing to experience its results. But whenever we experience its results, we are extinguishing some negative karma that we have created. So when we have this awareness of self-responsibility, that every negative result is a way of extinguishing a negative karma that we made in the past, sure, we don't like negative results, we don't like suffering, but whenever it comes, it also brings us a sensation of lightness. Okay, something less, I have less weight to take with me. Because if I don't pay this bill now, I will need to pay it later. And the interest gets higher. So better to do now. An extreme example of this was one of the teachers of Rinpoche, of Lama Ganchen. His name was Kachen Pembala in Tibet. He was an important master from Tashilumpa Monastery. So when Rinpoche was quite young, he was around his 15s. When he was 12, he went to study later in Lhasa, when he was around 14, 15, something like this. And then, when going to Lhasa, he went to say goodbye to one of this teacher, and he said to him, he was already very old, Kachen Pembala. So he said to Rinpoche, he said, look, my body is already so old, it has already given me everything I needed to take from this body. But now, It's just a heap where the negative karma manifests. So he said, I don't want to take my negative karmas to my next life. I want them to ripen in this body before I die. So please pray for me. He had a lot of faith in Rinpoche because he was a disciple of Rinpoche's previous life. Say, please pray for me that I die, that before dying I have a very bad sickness. Rinpoche didn't understand that. He said, how can I pray for that? He said, yes, okay, you don't understand, but you pray for that, okay? So after some years, Rinpoche went back, 2-3 years, whatever. And when Rinpoche went back to Tashilhunpo, he met him, and he was very happy to see Rinpoche, and he was saying, thank you so much, my wish was fulfilled. He had a hole in his throat, and he was with a lot of pain and so on. And then he said to Rinpoche, so good, but please continue to pray for me that my sickness get even worse. And what his concept was, this body already gave everything that needed to give to me. The day I die, I don't want to take my debts to my next life. The more debts I can live in this body, I can pay with this body, the better. But this is only possible when the person has a very clear awareness of continuity from life to life. It's like, as Rinpoche says, this body is nothing more than a hotel room. So it's like understanding that I am in my last minutes in my hotel room. So I will leave all the garbage in that room. I don't want to take the garbage with me. Whatever garbage I can leave here, the better. Otherwise, I need to take the garbage with me, and then at some point it will manifest again. So better to leave it here. No? So this is some sort of extreme example of this attitude. And he was very happy. He was not sad at all. So this is showing us that when we have this ability of recognizing truly that everything that we experience is the result of what we have done in the past, we stop pointing the fingers to others. Automatically, we stop being the victim. And it brings a sort of relief, the difficulties, the sufferings, because it means that we have less debts to pay. So, the two attitudes to transform, mainly they are, whenever we are in front of a difficult situation, of an adverse circumstance, we remember that that's the best opportunity we have to know better ourselves, to change our behavior. We are forced outside of the comfort zone, and so we need to change ourselves. This is one wonderful aspect. And it's like a mirror showing us our own defilements, where we can apply the antidotes. And on the other side, we are making ourselves less heavy because we are paying our debts with it. Okay? And these are the two main ways. Now, let's just go to the third one. Okay? So these two ways are the first two lines in which says, when the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Now we'll go to the last verse, 1 minute. So, the last part of how to transform adverse circumstances is the part of the verse where it says, Chalna kantuk gomla jar. Apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. The meaning of that is that normally, whenever we are in a difficult situation, our normal attitude is to react with selfishness. I am suffering, I don't want to suffer, and we remain blocked within that strong wish that I don't want to suffer. So here is where we need to apply the two bodhicittas. First, we start with relative bodhicitta. We can also apply absolute bodhicitta, but now we will talk about the relative bodhicitta. What we do in this moment, we recognize that actually, not only I don't want to suffer, others also don't want to suffer. So we take that very strong feeling of not wanting to suffer, that very strong urge that I don't want to suffer, and we simply redirect it towards everyone. We expand it towards others. Because in the moment of strong suffering, the wish not to suffer becomes even stronger. So we take that strong wish not to suffer and we expand towards others. And by that, we develop more compassion. When we are in a moment of pleasure and well-being, that we have this strong attachment to our pleasure and happiness, we take that strong wish to be happy and we expand it towards others. In this way, we transform a moment that normally it's related in a very selfish way into a way of developing love and compassion. So, actually, it's like the adverse circumstances bring us this strong urge not to suffer. And then we just take that very strength of this urge, I don't want to suffer, and then we just look around ourselves and we open it towards others. We expand that feeling towards others. And in the same way that I don't want to suffer, may everyone be free from their suffering also. I don't want anyone else to suffer also. I want myself to be free from my suffering, but I also want others to be free from their suffering. So I expand it towards others. And this by itself actually already brings some relief. Okay? But the main point is that we are transforming an adverse circumstances in a way how to develop bodhicitta. Okay? So if we join the three, first, we do not victimize ourselves, and we recognize that whatever we experience is the result of our past actions. So there is a sensation of relief by eliminating the heaviness of the actions we have done in the past. Second is the best opportunity to train and to change our mind. Because, otherwise, truly, where are our suffering coming from? Ignorance, selfishness, anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and so on. So what do we need? Truly what we need is to train on patience, on love, compassion, stability, and so on. And where is the best opportunity? When there are difficult circumstances. If there are no difficult circumstances, most probably I stay blocked where I am and I'm not moving to change something in my life. So thank you, difficult circumstances. Because you forced me to do something that otherwise I would not do. Okay? So if we join these three aspects, seeing the opportunity in the adverse circumstances, seeing the relief of the heaviness of the actions of the past, and using that strength to dedicate that may others also be free from suffering, to open our heart, then we truly transform that adverse circumstance. And the objective is to reach a state in which when everything goes well, we are happy. When things go bad, we are happy. Because both are the same level of opportunity for our practice. Okay? The last thing, I was just checking here if there is anything which was missing. There are some points here, but I think more or less we covered everything. And the last line we will see tomorrow. And there is one line here which I was looking the other day for, and how here I found it, which it says from Kachen Panchen Lobsang, referring to the part of the verse which says, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. And it says, when happy, dedicate the accumulation of your joy. Dedicate all your happiness. When happy, dedicate all your bliss. Dedicate all your joy. May the whole space, the whole vast space, be filled with well-being and joy. When suffering, take upon yourself the suffering of others. Not in the sense that I need to suffer for others, but I take also the responsibility of others. I feel the need also for others to be free from suffering. May the whole ocean of suffering become dry up. So, which means whenever I am happy, I dedicate my happiness to others. Whenever I am in suffering, may everyone be free from suffering. Okay? Now, one last thing here, which is somehow important. Remembering Atisha. Here, Panchen Rinpoche is touching this subject, so we just go briefly in it. Atisha, as we see there, our master with the red hat on the right, on my right side, on the left there, he was the main master that in the beginning of 11th century, he brought Buddhism to Tibet, which is through our lineage. There was other masters before which brought Buddhism to Tibet, but he was one of the most important ones. And our lineage goes through him. So one time, talking to one of his disciples called Dromtompa, Atisha said to Dromtompa, "Oh, my son, do not fear suffering." And Dromtompa answered, "But my master, if I do not fear suffering, I will suffer even more. Because with not fearing suffering, I would not try to avoid suffering." And Atisha said, "No, because you suffer much more for the fear of suffering than for the suffering itself. If we look to ourselves, truly speaking, we suffer more regarding the past, the present, or the future. Mostly past and future. So most of our suffering is mostly regarded to not having accepted the sufferings that we have gone through and worrying about future sufferings. So we pass most of the time re-suffering the past and pre-suffering the future, right? So in the moment that we understand that difficulties are part of life, suffering is the result of the previous actions of my own karma. Adverse circumstances are the opportunity of growth and development. Wonderful. So there is nothing wrong in the ones that came and nothing wrong in the ones that will come. So I just live the present and I'm ready to deal with it when it comes, instead of worrying so much. So in the moment here, Teacher Rinpoche says something like almost making friendship with suffering, making friendship with the difficulties and saying, okay, when they come, they have a lot to give to me. Actually, I believe that there is much more to fear to remain trapped in pleasure than to be in an adverse circumstance. If we are trapped in pleasure, we do not make any effort to change anything in ourselves. If we are in a sort of comfortable situation, if we are completely within our comfort zone and everything is perfect and nice and we are just enjoying pleasure and we stay there trapped in that pleasure for a long time, during that time we're not putting any effort to change anything, to develop ourselves, to overcome our defilements. And we can stay for a long time there. So for me, I have somehow more fear than being trapped in a total state of pleasure than actually having difficulties. The difficulties that come, welcome. We will find the solutions and we will deal with them and we will learn. I have the means to do it, so nothing to fear. Because the objective is not to have an easy life. The objective is to have a meaningful life. The objective is to overcome our defilements, to develop our qualities, to accumulate merits, to purify our negativities. That's the objective. It's not to have a pleasurable life. I'm sorry if I put it so clear in this way, but that's the point. Okay? And once we understand this clearly, then we relax somehow. Okay, yes, there will be a problem. Sure, there will be a problem. And what will happen when the problem comes? We will deal with it. We will be happy that it came. So what next can I learn? How can I deal with it? What can come with that, And then I say, it's like it becomes a sort of a game also, Oh, there is a difficulty. Let's see, how can I deal with it? What can I learn out of this? And remember, everything is impermanent. Good situations and bad situations. So don't need to worry so much, So the less we have fear of suffering, the less we suffer. Okay? So this is what I wanted to conclude for today. And tomorrow we will go to the last verse, because it's a little bit longer, in which it says the supreme method is accompanied by the four practices. And then we will go through the integrated practice of a single lifetime. We will go through this too tomorrow. Okay? Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munse tatu neg Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Nintsen taktu delekpe Koncho sumke jingilo Koncho sumge ngodrup sol Koncho sumge trashishon. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.